Think we're live. Hi, everyone. My name is Alina Klein.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Schaap.
We are both therapists here at Harper Therapy, and today we're here to talk to you about people pleasing. Jen is going to give you some information about it. I might ask a couple questions during it or throw in some information too, but we're going to go ahead and get started. So, what about people pleasing? You want to tell us, Jen?
So, I picked this topic because this is something that I personally work through, and I see it come up all the time with clients. So, what this looks like is the idea of how can I make other people around me happy? What can I do that makes other people feel comfortable? The focus is always on like what do I need to do to make other people happy.
And I want to say that I do think that even, especially as women, we're kind of like brought up to focus on the needs and feelings of others. That's just like innate, but also we're socialized to do that.
Yeah, I
You
would
agree?
actually really agree. Yeah, yeah. I think that there's this like message that's just like kind of just bury it down. Just don't make trouble.
Yeah, and make sure that people around you are okay.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah.
I think as women we're like constantly trying to assess like other people's emotions.
Yes. Yeah. Side note there.
Yes. Another way I call it is trying to fit other people's boxes. What does this person want from me? So what this can look like is like afraid to speak your voice. Like people be like, well, I didn't really want to tell them where I wanted to eat because I didn't know if they wanted to eat there. Or I don't want to let that person know that they hurt my feelings because I don't want to make them uncomfortable. Or in social situations, like I worry if I'm talking too much, talking too little. Is the person interested in what I'm talking about? Do they want me to stop talking? And then the end result is that you are not having a good time.
Right.
You're not present in the moment.
So it sounds like it's like constant external focus, like constantly focused externally on what's happening, what people are going to feel, what they're going to think, all of that.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay.
So it like really prohibits you from being in the moment.
Okay.
And there's many reasons why this can come and originate, and that's something that you can really explore more in counseling.
Right, because it can be complex, right?
Yeah, very complex. Usually
we all have our stuff.
Bullying, trauma, parents, like somewhere
role models that we saw.
Yeah, right? Somewhere where you got this message.
Right.
So this isn't going to be like how you can know where it came from because that's deeper work. But what I want to talk about is ways to fight it. Just quick little tools that you can use to help you power through it.
I think that'll be helpful.
So the first thing I want you to recognize is possibly the origin. So if you have some idea of where it comes from, you may have no idea, but it may be like me kind of voicing that question of where do you think maybe you learned it? Like you can kind of go back and be like, is this like a bully's voice? Is this my mom's voice? Sometimes I kind of ask clients like the idea of like whose voice is this?
And when you say voice, Jen, can you clarify like what is that voice telling us? Is that like the critical inner critic or like the critical voice? Like what is that voice?
Yes, the critical voice.
Okay.
Like the critical voice. Like when you make a mistake, what do you notice you saying to yourself? It can be helpful. You may be like, I have no idea where this voice originates from. And then it's like, okay, great. That's something that you just have to work deeper with.
Okay.
But if you can do that, great. If not, what I want you to do is recognize that this voice is not serving you. I want you to realize that, is this voice helping me be a better person? Is the things I'm worrying about something that's within my control?
Right.
And if not, I'm going to let it go. So you almost tell that voice, you talk to it and be like, I'm going to let you go because you are not serving me right now at this time.
Because if we had someone in our lives that talked to us the way that we talk to ourselves, we likely would not keep them in our lives, right? Like
absolutely, yeah.
There are many times where I'm like, I would never let someone talk to me the way that I talk to myself sometimes, right?
Yeah. I think we're a lot meaner to ourselves than we would be other people.
Right. So just like we would let that person go, part of it is kind of detaching from that voice, not recognizing it as reality and being like, okay, I'm going to choose to put you aside.
Yeah, which goes to the idea is like how you talk to yourself, would you talk to a friend in this manner? And if the answer is no, then you might want to assess like, why am I being so mean to myself?
Right.
So that can kind of help with self-esteem as well, because a lot of times trying to fit yourself in a box has to do with maybe you're not feeling great about who you are. And so just even telling yourself, giving yourself that self-love to be like, I'm going to let this voice go, can be very powerful.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Okay.
The next one is positive affirmations and recognizing your needs are important. So what I tell people to do is you can pick a fake or real nurturing figure that you have in your life, and you can kind of embody that voice. So picking a voice to kind of combat that negative critical voice that I call it.
I love that. So like someone in your life that maybe was like super nurturing or kind of a supportive role model in your life, looking at them as maybe kind of focusing your attention on that voice versus the critical one.
Yes, yes. So like replacing it. So if like you have like a grandma, you're like, oh, she makes me feel so good and so nurturing. Kind of inserting that voice to replace the negative one. So being like, what would she say to me in this moment? Really embodying it, really thinking, what does her voice sound like? What kind of things would she say? What do I feel when I hear that voice?
That's awesome.
And it may be friends. It may be like, okay, I don't really have a nurturing person. So even taking friends and being like, what would a friend that's very nurturing say to me?
Right.
I've had people pick imaginary figures.
Yeah.
I've had people pick Paddington Bear.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I love that. Okay.
So you could...
Yeah, it's something from childhood that you remember that brings good feelings or sensations that kind of brings up this feeling of like, oh, it's all okay. It's going to be okay.
Yeah, yeah. And phrases that you can say are something like, I'm not responsible for other people's needs. I am lovable. It's okay for me to say no.
Right.
Just little affirmations that you could say. You could even just have ones, like little box ones to know, like, oh, I'm going to express my opinion. What is something I need to say? It's okay for me to disagree with others. It's okay for me to have my needs met. Just to remind yourself, the more you do it, the easier it gets. You could even do it when you're not in time of like stress to help build that skill.
No, I love that. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Then recognizing boundaries are not a bad thing. I feel like boundaries get such a bad rap.
It's a word with baggage, I think.
It is.
Right?
It is. Yeah. Like boundaries are not a bad thing. In fact, boundaries are actually a gift you can give someone. Because I know if you're a people pleaser, you actually probably really like boundaries because it helps you know what is okay for the other person and what is not. So if your friends care about your needs, they probably also want to know what makes you happy, what makes you uncomfortable. And by giving them a boundary, you're giving them a gift because now they know like a set of operating instructions. So to say like, oh, I don't like it when we all talk really loudly. Okay, cool. That would be helpful for your friends to know.
So that leads me into the question, Jen, how does someone know what their boundary is? Like, how do they establish that?
Like, how would you know your own personal boundary?
Like, how do I know what I'm okay with and what I'm not okay with?
That's a really good question.
Yeah. What would you tell a client? Because I think sometimes, like, you know, many of us tend to go with the flow, or we're just like, hey, fine, I'm going to just go along with this. I think sometimes we know we're not okay with something when we start to get resentful about it, or when we're just like, we know we don't want to be doing it. We're kind of annoyed that we have to be doing it, but we haven't said anything to make it any other way.
I would agree with that. Yeah, noticing if resentment builds up is a good way to notice if your boundaries are being inflicted on. If you're noticing that you're just feeling really anxious, if like you're noticing your body, if you're like you actually feel discomfort in your body, it may be that a boundary is being crossed.
Okay. That's good. Good, helpful to know.
A lot of times people want to know, like, if you want, for example, Wednesdays to hang out and not see anyone, and you just want to tell your friends, hey, Wednesday's a me day, friends appreciate that. A friend that gets mad at you for setting a boundary, that's a friendship you may want to assess because they're not listening to what your needs are.
Right. And would you give them that same, you probably would give them that same grace of being like, yeah, fine, Wednesday's your day, like, we'll get together another day.
Absolutely.
Right? I mean, you deserve that too.
Yes. Yeah, you would do the same for them.
Right.
And so I think friends will do the same for you.
Right.
And if they don't respect boundaries, then that's a thing that you can discuss with your friend or reassess.
Right.
So with all these things, what I want to say is it's a work in progress. Don't expect to just be like, okay, I learned these skills, I'm going to do it. Show yourself some self-compassion because that, again, goes back to feeling better about yourself, having higher self-esteem. If you recognize, like, this is hard. It's hard to set boundaries. It's hard to challenge that negative voice. And it's hard to remember to give ourselves positive affirmations and fight against what we've maybe been doing for years.
Our whole lives, maybe.
Yes.
Right? And I think that to go along with that, it's, awareness is always the first step. So, like, if you're aware of this as being an issue, like, you're already on your way to helping yourself get to, or allowing yourself to get to another point, like where it's not as much of an issue as it was before. So like even being aware of it, if this video kind of, you're like, oh my God, I relate so much, that's good awareness. Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So, and we're here to help you get to some of maybe the deeper issues of why you feel the need to people please in the first place. Because sometimes, I mean, these tools are awesome and they're an amazing start. And sometimes we need to kind of explore what the deeper roots of our behaviors are. So
Yeah.
that's what we're here for. So anything else you wanted to say?
No, that's
All right,
it.
cool. Thanks, Jen. That was really informational. Thank you.
Great. Bye.